Well, hello, my silky friends. I hope you can hear me okay. It looks like everything's good, but I had to reset up my computer because I undid it during the storms. Um, and I want to say good morning to everybody real quick. And I've got a guest backstage, and I don't want to keep him waiting, but let me say hello, artist. It is so good to see you. I've missed your coffee talks. Yeah, I've missed them too. Um, yeah, it's been insane. My life has been insane lately. Buckeye, hey there. Don McKenzie, hello to you. I hope y'all have y'all even been looking at the JFK declassified stuff. It's kind of like, some people are saying, well, it's kind of a nothing burger. I don't think so. I don't think so. And we're going to talk about all the nuances. And I've got some stuff I pulled from X, and I've got direct to the JFK files. And let me tell you this, if you want to read them, like all 80,000 pages, I've probably read about 300. So it's crazy. Let me go ahead and say, oh, hello, V. Good to see ya. Yeah, say hello. Let me know who's lurking. I'm a lurker sometimes, so what can I say? All right. But if you remember, you may remember my guest, Colton from Humanetics. One day, maybe we'll do that again. Um,
Howdy.
Hello, hello. And so, like, he's going to be, if you don't know anything about JFK, and I mean, that was before, his assassination was before I was born as well. So,
Good for you.
yeah, yeah, really for you. But we're going to be discussing some things. And look, I want y'all to know I value your input and your knowledge so much. But let me catch up with Colton. How you been doing?
I've been pretty good. Pretty good. How about you yourself?
Busy working, and the storms that came through here this past weekend, I didn't even attempt. I was off work, and I did not attempt to do anything because it was. I'll tell y'all, maybe when we're talking about something else, I'll tell y'all some crazy things. The weather. We'll talk about that maybe tomorrow. Do want to let y'all know that tomorrow night we don't have a time set in stone yet, but Thursday night, somewhere probably around 6, at the latest 7, I'm going to be going live with Low Light Recovery, and we're going to be talking about Delphi because y'all know. But there's so much stuff out here, and I wish I could see my screen better. I might have to put on my glasses. This is terrible.
I can't believe
Um,
the Delphi's still going on. I
oh
thought
my
it
gosh,
was.
Delphi is not going to stop. Okay, I'm just going to have to wear my glasses. Hey, RC99. And Buckeye says, I was 5 years old when JFK, when that happened. It was
I
the
think I
first
was.
time I saw grown ups cry. Wow.
I think I was 5 years old when 9/11 happened.
Wow. That was another thing. I'm going to be talking about 9/11 on Rumble. I've got so much stuff on 9/11, and you're welcome to join me, Colton,
Do you have
on
anything
Rumble.
new? I know you talked in the past about 9/11. Have you found any new information?
Well, actually, the old information that was never put out is the best information. Um,
I know there's stuff like the building burned for a couple months, and there was like some
okay,
really unnatural things. But
hold on just a second. We can't talk about anything on here.
okay,
Yeah,
there.
that's why Rumble. Okay, so I'll let y'all know when I'm gonna go. I don't know if I'm feeling froggy, I might jump on that tonight. Who knows? I've got so much info. Uh, let's see. Artist says Delphi is off the rails right now. Be careful. Uh, Too much drama. You know what? Here's the thing. I know since that video came out, I watched it a bunch of times. I didn't even know. I was filming for my other channel, and I turned on criminality. I love criminality. And I realized that she was showing the video, and then you know, I watched a few minutes of that and then I had to go to bed because I had to work the next day. And I had a lot of thoughts on my own. I've not watched a whole lot of other people's perspectives because I don't want to color my own thoughts about seeing that video. All right. And we'll talk about that. But yeah, let's go ahead. Okay. Um, hello, Miss Robin. Good to see ya. Yeah. Well, you know what? Delphi's always crazy, but if y'all are telling me it's off the charts, it's a little scary. That is a little. But we're gonna go back to because we had a big document drop. So let me tell you how if you want to read these, all you have to do is go to nationalarchives.org and then you do a / JFK. You're gonna find it, and it has a whole a whole groupings of all the latest of the 2025 releases.
Did they put it on the CIA website?
Okay. No, the CIA is in big trouble.
They have all kinds of crazy declassified documents on there about wild stuff.
Yeah, and well,
Their
I don't know.
official
Is it
government
CIA?
website.
Is it the CIA or is it like I know you can FOIA request stuff.
No, it's like publicly on the CIA website.
Is it that might be where I saw like I had a whole I still have it I think somewhere on my computer a whole download. Maybe it was from them on a Project Bluebird. And I'm like, "Holy smokes. I didn't even have time to read that one." But yeah. So let's start with okay, those of you and Colton obviously was not around in 1963, but nor was I. But you have to start with the environment, okay? Now, JFK was a Democrat. There was a lot of stuff going on, all right? And we're going to talk about some scary stuff today that is not directly related, but is related. Um, JFK was really stirring the waters at this time. He had his own plans and it really didn't go with the way the CIA, the FBI, or the government in general wanted to go. He wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve, which was a big problem. Um, the government, the US government, according to these leaks and papers and stuff, wanted to him to get involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis. And this is and the whole Cuban thing. The like Cuba was a big communist problem at the time, and they wanted to get rid of Castro and like all the lies that the CIA told JFK, and he was just not willing to get involved. So he was JFK was going against everything the powers that be wanted to do. So, what happens a lot of times people have accidents, you know. Whatever. But let's go. Let's see. V says, I can't be reading JFK docs for the next 70 years, so I appreciate those who are reading it. I'll tell you this, y'all and Colton, there were some interesting things. Because I am one of those people who, when I read a novel, I don't want to know the whole ending. I just want to know the gist of it. Like halfway through, the suspense is killing me. So I go to the back of the novel and I read like just a little bit before it ends. So, in true fashion, I went to the very last page of the declassified stuff and I found where they're talking about, arms, giving arms to Latin American countries and Cuba and all this. They were actually hiding like hand grenades inside shredded coconut bags. And they were also putting them in canned fruit, but like the cans would say that. And it was a special third shift operation at these plants that they were really stuffing these cans with arms. I'm like, whoa, that was interesting. Uh, Hello, Samantha. Good to see
Wait,
ya.
did this happen during the Cold War?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And there was very much in these files, you will find involvement by Australia, um, the UK, and at the time, what was called the Soviet Union. We know it as Russia. Yeah, all these stuff, and I'm reading all this. Again, it has nothing to do directly with JFK, but it's like, my gosh, y'all are out here wilding. And it's gonna get interesting. But let me go to what oh, you know what? I messed up my I clicked off on here accidentally. There we go. All right. So let me go to X. And Colton, I can't see what they're saying. So just let me know if somebody says something I need to we need to talk about, okay?
Will do.
So um now this has come out on a bunch of, and I saw this as well on the documents. But going through them so fast, you don't always catch everything. So this was a drop, and this is where they've been saying in the media it's going to involve Israel and all this kind of stuff. Um, and it does. I mean, this is just part of it. Let's see.
Wait, what is that highlighted part?
Okay, this is where this comes in. And on this particular document, it says that Echevarria allegedly made a comment the day before the unaliving of President JFK that, quote, "We now have plenty of money. Our new backers are Jews as soon as we or they take care of Kennedy." Now, let me say from the get go, I'm not blaming all this. When you read these documents, it's not, the CIA is definitely involved, no doubt. But it seems like it is a big conspiracy amongst other countries and not just Israel, who maybe at the time, Israel, Kennedy was telling Israel he did not want them to have nuclear weapons, which was a problem for them. Okay, we were trying not to get into this whole nuclear thing and blow ourselves up. So he was opposing that. They weren't happy. One of the things that people were saying. Um, Now, I did want to play some of this because a lot of y'all may have heard of William Cooper or Bill Cooper. Maybe if you go down the rabbit holes like I do, on everything, you will remember the name Bill Cooper. A lot of people refer to him because he was unalived, and he was known for truth telling. So this was, and it says he exposes the unaliving of JFK on live TV. This is on May 15th, 1999. And I'm just gonna tell you, it's even on my view, it is very, very fuzzy. Okay. But basically we want to listen to what he has to say. So let me put the sound on and let's watch it.
3 arson fires in less than 24 hours at a Salt Lake City nursing home. A suspect is in custody. Officers and families gather to honor deputies killed in the line of duty.
And a new twist to an old story. Is it possible the CIA was involved in the death of President John F. Kennedy? We'll show you the pictures and let you decide. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarah Harlow.
And I'm Bob Evans. This is KUTV News at noon. John F. Kennedy assassination, UFOs, the New World Order, and the secret government. Those are just some of the areas today's guest says he has incredible information about. In the early 1970s, Bill Cooper was a Naval Security Intelligence officer. He says he was privy to secret documents that gave almost inconceivable explanations to some of the things I just mentioned. Bill Cooper, thanks for being with us today. Let's talk about the JFK assassination. CIA plot?
Well, from the top secret documents that I read while I was in Naval Intelligence, it concerned the Central Intelligence Agency, the Secret Service, Division 5 of the FBI, and the Office of Naval Intelligence, and that's why I was able to view these documents.
Now, why would the CIA and the security community want to kill the president?
From what I understand and from what I read, Bob, they viewed President Kennedy as a security threat, and I'm not sure exactly what that means. But the documentation clearly said that the assassin was the driver in the car in which he was riding in Dallas on that day, and it was plainly visible in a film withheld from the public.
Now, you brought that film with you. Let's take a look at that if we can. Here's the film. Go ahead and narrate this for us, will you?
Well, it took me 16 years to find this film because it has really been withheld. And what you're seeing here is the motorcade on Elm Street passing in front of the book depository building. Kennedy has been shot in the throat, and Jacqueline is pulling him toward her, trying to comfort him, and she's in shock. At this time, you see the driver turn around with a pistol in his left hand, firing over his right shoulder.
Okay. I can't play all of this. I did repost this on X, as you will see it a lot of times, and several of the things that we're going to look at show this. So this is only 5 minutes long, and we're already halfway into it. Let me just back it up a little bit. Okay. Because this isn't always friendly. Why isn't this playing? Great. Sorry, y'all. What is the deal? Look, I want to tell y'all something. I came across an interview yesterday, and I was at work flipping through things, and I bookmarked it today. It is gone. Today it is been pulled, I guess.
I don't know if they're going to show it here, but we also have photographs of him when he was under arrest.
And we don't have that, but I have seen that photograph, and they do look quite similar. The clothing is very
similar. Let me back this up.
So there's the actual Parkland Hospital building in the doorway, watching the motorcade as it goes by. That is Lee Harvey Oswald there. You can look at his clothing, and you can see in a following picture, I don't know if they're going to show it here, but we also have photographs of him when he was under arrest.
And we don't have that, but I have seen that photograph, and they do look quite similar. The clothing is very similar.
We've also done...
Okay, so are y'all catching that? They're saying that this is Lee Harvey Oswald, and here is the motorcade. But we know, according to what they said, he was like how many floors up in the book repository? I've actually been there to that place in Dallas. I don't know. It's to me, it seems smaller than you expect on such a, bigger than life event. But I don't know. So this is according to Bill Cooper.
Body measurement, proportion, comparison, analysis between the two photographs, and there's no doubt it's Lee Harvey Oswald.
This is incredible. Why isn't it that the CIA has silenced you? Why haven't they silenced you?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think they want a martyr on their hands. Martyrs create political movements. And what I did is literally within a 24-hour period, I prepared a $27,000 mailing. That's what it cost me personally to mail this information all over the world and the United States. And so they're faced with a dilemma. Do they allow me to speak and allow people to doubt what I'm saying? Or do they do something overt toward me to silence me and thus verify that everything that I've said is true?
Now, what about Jackie Kennedy? She was in the car with the president right there, and we saw her later in that film trying to get out of the car. Yeah. Why hasn't she said something?
Well, it's obvious. You have to understand that the Secret Service was a participant in the plot to assassinate the president. She saw William Greer shoot her husband. She tried to get out of the car because she had every reason to believe that she might be left. She saw Connolly hit. She saw her husband hit. She tried to exit. Her own personal bodyguard, Clint Hill, tried to put her back in the car and succeeded. But you have to understand that her children, for the rest of their life, are guarded by the Secret Service. She is also under protection of the Secret Service. A better thing might be, say, captive, you might say.
If you're going to be protected by the Secret Service, it might be wise not to make people mad, right? If they're going to be protecting you. I
could have swore I'd seen a video like a year ago of an angle where it looked like the driver turned around and shot him.
Yes, there are some videos, and I'm going to show you what I can of that interview. Um, but yeah, it's insane. There's another lady that's going to be talking, and I'll just tell you, if I don't find it in my stuff, I'll tell you the gist of what I heard in files that have disappeared from my computer, from my ex anyway. Uh, yes, just Robin, he was very gutsy to do this on camera because, well, 6 months later, he supposedly unalived himself. So there you go. Now, here's another one. Let me pull this up. Okay. Now, this is in the files as well. I did see this myself. Um, Newly released JFK files tell a story about how Gary Underhill, who worked for the CIA, was found unalive after he revealed to friends that the CIA was responsible for JFK's assassination. The day after the assassination, Gary Underhill left Washington in a hurry. Late in the evening, he showed up at the home of friends in New Jersey. He was very agitated. Quote, a small clique within the CIA was responsible for the unaliving, he confided, and he was afraid for his life and possibly would have to leave the country. Here's another one. Less than 6 months later, Underhill was found unalive, pew-pewed in his Washington apartment. The coroner ruled it self-induced. I'm going to pull this up. I don't know. Maybe you could have, maybe you saw it better that way. Um, but yeah, that's basically what he was saying. J. Garrett Underhill had been an intelligence agent during World War II and was a recognized authority on limited warfare and small arms. He was on a first name basis with many of the top brass in the Pentagon. He was also on intimate terms with a number of high ranking CIA officials, and he was one of the agency's unpeople who perform special assignments. All right, so this, well, it is better, I guess, here. Now you can see where it says this is from the documents. A lot of them are stamped secret. The friends whom Underhill visited say he was sober, but badly shook. They say he attributed the Kennedy unaliving to a CIA clique, who is carrying on a lucrative racket in gun running, narcotics, and other contraband, and manipulating political intrigue to serve its own ends. Kennedy supposedly got wind that something was going on and was done in before he could blow the whistle on it. Although the friends had also known Underhill to be perfectly rational and objective, they at first didn't take his account seriously. Okay? Because it just becomes kind of crazy. You know, you think, oh, well, you know. But like I said, there are so many. When you're reading these files, I started wondering, okay, how this is not directly about the event. So why is this in the unclassified files? Because it's tangents. It's like tentacles, okay? We have the event, but we have all these other things and all these other people involved. And then it starts to make a little bit more sense. Clearly, all through these files, the CIA and their operations are mentioned. Let me see what you're saying. But yeah, all right, I'm going to go back to that. That's important. Okay, here's another one. Now, this is the Zapruder film. And it says the film you saw and the one that was shown on the news and mainstream media was altered and a fake. So this woman is talking about this. Let me stop. Were you going to say something, Colton?
No, that's interesting.
Okay, so this is only 1:35, so I'm gonna let it play. So there you go. What do y'all think of that? I actually found that maybe a few days before they released the files. But yeah. So let me take you to one of the actual documents, because I found this highly interesting. Let me make sure you can see it good. All right, let me change this up just a second. It's the thing you have to, every time you get a new file, you have to adjust it. All right. All right, this is towards the end, and this is document 20. I think it's like on page 218 of the, if you're looking by pages of the files, it's 202-100001-10219. Okay. Now, they're not talking about the event of JFK. They're talking about the crisis going on, and the incidents, all this kind of Cuba stuff. And if you can tell, it's talking about the CIA and blah, blah, blah. But this is going to go where we're going to land next. Okay, so this is back in the 60s, right? Now it says, if you can't read this, it's easier for me to read. Priority Operations Schedule 21, and then this is missing a letter. Anyway, but they're saying seeking some positive actions in behalf of our project, blah, blah, blah. This is the part that I want you to look at, because they're giving different tasks that the CIA is going to do against Cuba. Now, this may sound unrelated to us, but trust me, it's not. Task number 7 is, quote, Voice of Free Cuba. That is, I don't know if that was a media thing or why it's in quotations, or if that's just the plan. But Voice of Free Cuba is almost immediately feasible if the group will approve CIA now, arranging with Navy for use of a submarine. CIA has firm plans for worrying the communist regime through broadcasts, which would appear, okay? Understand what it's saying, to come from local dissident groups actively planning to harass the regime. Okay, so they are trying to infiltrate like this Voice of Free Cuba, and they're saying the CIA is going to, and they're using this submarine too, because the next paragraph or somewhere close by here talks about them also, releasing flyers. But the fact that they are planning this to make it look like it's local, Cubans who are saying this, doing this. They're dissident groups, okay? And so I'm thinking, okay, so this is the CIA getting involved in Cuba by making it look like some of the Cuban people or these dissidents, wherever they're from, are, trying to have a voice, trying to come against what's his name, Castro, was doing. All right, they're getting in the mix. So think about that. This is the 1960s, probably 50s as well. So what would that look like? Taking that information, what would that look like in 2025, Colton?
Wait, say that again.
Okay, so the CIA this is part of their plan, okay? This is classified. They're planning to infiltrate the Voice of Cuba and and they're going to intervene with broadcasts sounding like people, dissidents, like people who are against what's happening, um, to harass
The,
Castro, but whatever. They're all up in here, so they're I guess hiring, whatever, however they're coercing, but they're interrupting this. So if you were to take what they had in those days, which would have been, maybe just newspapers, radio, uh, flyers that they distributed, looking like people were upset, local people rising up, what would you do in 2025 that would be different if you had the same plan?
well, 2025 is there's like a lot of AI, so it's hard to know what's real. I'm also curious. Was this like
Yeah, but what do we have now that we didn't have in the 60s? Because we had newspaper, radio, and
I mean, social media, obviously.
yes, yes, bingo, social media. And can you see how the CIA got involved with another country? Now, I know right now we're talking about another country, but we're going to all bring it back home. They get involved with trying to make it look like the people are, trying to have a voice. They're getting, in other words, they're trying to get everybody riled up, saying these people, are out here crying for help. They don't like this, whatever.
Wait, this is Americans like pretending
No,
that the Cubans under Castro's regime are like openly
yes,
hostile towards
yes.
Americans.
This is the CIA. This is part of their covert action, saying that this is our plan. This is task number 7. They have a bunch in here, but this is the one where they're saying that they're trying to make it appear. Let me look at it again bigger. Okay. So they're worrying the communist regime through broadcasts which would appear to come from local groups actively planning to harass the regime. Okay. So this is, yes, the CIA, the United States CIA messing around in Cuba, making it look like that people are protesting, right? We're all up in Cuba's business. Okay, so I'm thinking, I read this and I'm like, okay, all they had back then are the original media sources. Now we have so many social media resources to make it look okay. So I guess what I'm saying, I'm trying to get you to catch this. If the CIA was messing around back in the 60s with messing with people's heads, making it infiltrating and doing these broadcasts, making it seem like one thing was happening that they wanted to show, how much more in 2025, even from 2020, that's all I can say about that, up to 2025, could they infiltrate and make it look and hire people, whatever, to be these same kind of dissidents? You
Um,
know what I'm saying?
well, I
And
don't
this is
want
all CIA backed.
I don't want to be too political, but I mean, there's been a lot of corruption happen in the last you could say 5 years at least, and and even to this day they continue to lie about it on national TV all the time. And I think we're in a different age now where basically everyone with a phone is now an independent journalist. So like when like especially with stuff like the Israel Palestine war, like there's so many people on the ground that are taking video and and they're putting out all this stuff on the news, but these people are on the ground like posting videos and all that. And maybe that's why they want to get rid of TikTok. That's a different story, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. A few things that there's a few things that make me wonder. Well, this is kind of unrelated. Like some of the videos, like where they have the fakes. Um, they didn't have like CGI back in the '60s,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess they like could splice stuff, but it was, I guess, from what I understand, it was very hard to make it look real. So
Well, yeah, that's why that tree, remember that she was highlighting, that tree just cut off, it was floating in midair. Yeah, their technology back then, um, was not, I mean, but you still had Hollywood, you still had people who knew how to do things. Of course, we didn't have the technology that we have today, um, and
Right.
I would say
I wonder what all, like the CIA, like what all technology they really have. Like how far behind is the general population as far as,
way,
like,
way.
you know,
We're way far behind. Honestly, um, I've heard people estimate, whistleblowers and stuff, that we're at least 30 years behind
I don't
what they
doubt it.
can actually do.
I was guessing around 40, so that seems reasonable.
Yeah. So, clearly if we were to doctor that film now, the tree wouldn't be missing, but um, I'm sure they had, of course they didn't have the wonderful Adobe programs that are out there now, but uh yeah. But yeah, the whole point is, here you have the CIA all involved in another country, which was legal, okay? And we're going to talk about that when we're going on into X. Let me stop and address some of the stuff y'all are saying. Um, let's see. Yeah, Samantha says they were setting up a coup for Cuba. Absolutely. It was smoke and mirrors. Yes. You're true, V. Uh, Nothing's changed. We now have social media bots. True, true. Um, let's see what Margaret Lee Reed is saying. The Dr. Tree hid the shooter. Autopsy wound and angle has shooter behind a fence on the other grassy knoll across the street. Sound travels. Onlookers went down in opposite side of shooter. Yes. And let me tell you something else. As I'm reading these files again, I haven't come across huge bits that talk about the actual event, but it's fascinating, really, if you have time to read it. Not that I've got time, but I'm a nerd, so I read this stuff. Um, some of the characters involved and the way that they're described and the things that they do in these files, it's like they could be multiple movies about people just related to this. But one of the things that has consistently been said is that Lee Harvey Oswald, and I'm just catching you up, Colton, in case you don't know that much about the assassination. Lee Harvey Oswald, this little bitty guy, was supposed to be up in like the third floor of the book repository. It was a lone gunman, and when they immediately arrested Oswald, and before he could ever go to trial, he was being transported, and this other guy who was, he Oswald had, Secret Service or whatever. He had LE protection. And this guy was there. I think they were in an airport, whatever. This guy is there. He's got his back turned to the camera. He's on the phone using the payphone, blah, blah, blah. He turns around, unalives Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald, like point blank, he's right there. His name was Jack Ruby. Now, probably in some of my stuff, we're going to go on to stuff about Jack Ruby. But it's strange how you have someone who has just committed this crime against a sitting president, and boom, he's not protected enough, seriously, to not be assassinated himself. So, that being said, there's other factors that come up in this. Now, when you do a deep dive into Oswald, and it's all through these document drops, Oswald, and it was reported. Now, this is not confirmed, but it's reported that he was serving what branch of, I can't remember now, one of the four military branches. his officer said that he was recruited by the CIA. Now, for sure, according to these documents, we know that Oswald spent a significant time in Russia, or what was the Soviet Union at that time. He had a wife there. And actually, he had Oswald just the month before JFK situation. He was applying for a visa to go back to the Soviet Union. Well, in these documents, it talks about Oswald's character, and basically the CIA is saying, "Look, nobody can control this guy. Like, he's just good luck." They're basically saying, "Good luck. He's a wild card." But they did say, and I found this very interesting, that they said Lee Harvey Oswald was a poor shot. That they took him out into a field and they were kind of testing him, and he couldn't. He was very bad. Now this bullet that supposedly Oswald used to unalive JFK was like a 1 in a million shot. Like, you had to be expert. He was not, according to the CIA, which definitely says, okay, he wasn't the one who did this. He was the fall guy, probably because he was a troublemaker. That's my opinion. Hard to control. Let's see what y'all are saying. Artist said J. Edgar Hoover did a lot of dirty stuff. In my opinion, the CIA, led by Hoover, worked hand in hand with the mafia to get rid of Kennedy. Cuba was on the playground of the mafia, and USSR supplied missiles. Very likely. Very likely.
What was the relationship between Cuba and the Soviet Union at this time?
Well, they were both communist countries. Yeah. So there's that. V says Johnson was involved. I don't know for a fact yet, but I'm betting money someone has probably already found it. Well, I'll tell you what. One of the videos that I had, that I bookmarked yesterday, was exactly that. It was two guys, and I can't remember. It was somebody von Silos or something like that was one of the speakers, and I can't remember the name of the other guy, but he was in the government. He was a official of some kind. And basically, this whole conversation that's recorded is basically saying, yeah, that Lyndon Johnson was trying to cover up or get attention away from the Baker scandal, which, if you don't know about that, let me sum it up real quick. Lyndon Johnson had a close protege that was involved in just every kind of racketeering, all kind of crap, and he was going down. He ended up spending 18 months in prison. Very close friend of Lyndon's, and so Lyndon was afraid that was going to tarnish him, and he would not be able to run for president in 1964. So, yeah. They're saying that Lyndon wanted this whole scandal. First, he wanted JFK out of the way, and then secondly, he wanted to kind of shift the focus, So, I mean, I understand that. Obviously, he wasn't alone in his quest, because the CIA
what do you
was
think
involved.
are the chances that there's like multiple groups involved? Like it wasn't, because like today, like if President Trump was murdered today, like there's
you can't say that.
I mean, there's 100 different groups we could think of that would probably do it.
Oh yeah,
given the opportunity.
Sure there is, and that's the same way it was with JFK. He had made so many people mad. He wasn't complying. He wanted to get rid of the Fed. He wanted to disband the CIA, because what they had actually done is they had come to him and they had said, "Hey, we want to mess around in Cuba. Basically, we want to get involved with the military. We don't like what's going on down there, blah, blah, blah." And JFK said, "Hey, that is not our business. How they want to run their country is not our business." And so then the CIA came back with this whole story about how Americans had been attacked by the Cubans. Like, I just read it, the details. Anyway, they come back and they say, hey, now that Americans are involved and Cuba has, unalived some of our people, let's get involved. And JFK still said, no, I'm not doing it. Well, then he finds out shortly thereafter that all of that was a lie, that they told him to try to instigate him to get involved in taking over Cuba, right? It was insane. So yeah, it would. You're right, Colton. It would be the same thing because just like Trump has many, many enemies, JFK same way. So
Well,
do I think it was a group effort? Most likely,
see,
yeah.
nowadays though, like the U.S. doesn't mind getting their hands involved in any other country's politics, right? And there's like certain stuff that I don't know. Like I just have certain questions, like you know how like if a country does something that's like deemed immoral, like worldwide, like usually the countries will band together and impose sanctions or something or some kind of like consequence against, like when Russia invaded Ukraine, and everyone put sanctions against Russia's oil, to kind of like try to
Yeah.
hurt them. I mean, you think that was like the case back then, that there were, you know,
Oh yeah. And also Samantha brought up a uh great point that I neglected to say. And don't forget, JFK wanted to stop Vietnam. Can't make money supplying war equipment with no war. Yeah, he wanted us out of that whole. We really had no business in that whole thing. We were certainly unprepared, and a lot of people suffered greatly
but
for
the,
that.
the the general like consensus back then was like we need to stay involved in our own business and not worry about what
Pretty
kind of happened.
much.
What kind of happened since then? While we're worried about everyone else.
Okay, well, you have to understand that war is money, okay? Whether we're supplying arms, manufacturing to supply arms to other places, selling stuff. Like, look, war is big business on so many levels. And yeah, but that was kind of like in World War II. If you think about history, the United States didn't get involved until December of 1941 when Pearl Harbor was attacked, because we were like, look, we're staying out of it. Y'all people in Europe, you can fight it out amongst yourselves. All right. We're staying out of it. And that's was our last word on it. So again, strangely enough, Pearl Harbor is attacked by Japan. All of a sudden, we're all involved. All right. But that was what the US had historically tried. Even in World War One, we weren't some of the big ones on there. Like, we're trying to stay neutral. The US for years and years tried to just mind their own business. But now, since then, we've found out, oh my goodness, how much money can be made from wars. Yeah, let's get involved. Yeah, the politics has really, really changed. Absolutely.
Did you see what artist said about the bubble around the car?
Yeah, I was just looking at that and then I was going back up. When Kennedy did PR tours, he always had a protective bubble on the car. This was the one time he did not have it, and Johnson convinced him not to use it. Yeah. Isn't that odd? Isn't that odd? Yes, Russia backed Cuba. Cuba wasn't communist before Castro, true, but then they did have the backing of Russia. And that's what some of these pages, when I was telling you about the arms going forth and the cans of fruit and all that kind of stuff from factories, there were also Russian or Soviet Union fishermen. They hired local fishermen, like nobody's suspecting them. They're just out there, plain old folks just fishing. No, they were getting arms into Cuba and to other Latin American countries at that time. Yeah, Russia was all involved in that. Yeah. So let me go back to. I just thought that was interesting because the fact that we got all involved in what was then their social media, okay, not social media as we know it, their limited social media. CIA all up in everybody's business, getting people all, stirred up with fake campaigns, okay? This was just their task. So, yeah, what is the CIA doing today? Interesting. Now, let me go back to X because I'm going to go back. Hold on. Let me fix this. I know it's not right now. We're going to mostly stay on X, I think, from now on. Now, let's go back up to something that I skipped on purpose because y'all see my X. This is just it's all kind of crazy up in here. I repost as I find something. But this is from Wall Street Apes, who I follow. Now, this is with Joe Rogan. Talked about. Now, we all know that Obama repealed the Smith-Mundt Act. Now, what that was, basically in a nutshell, is that act said we could get, just like the CIA did in these documents, which is why I brought it up. They said, oh, we can get involved, the CIA, whatever, whomever, we can do these dirty tricks in other countries, but we can't do it to the U.S. Like, we can't do it to our own citizens, but we can go out there and cause trouble in Cuba and Russia, wherever in the heck we want to do, whatever we want to say. We can tell lies and stuff. Propaganda. It's all propaganda. We can do it anywhere else, just not to the citizens of the United States. However, when Barack Obama repealed that act, guess what? All of a sudden, we could do it to ourselves. Now, so, and we're going to listen to a little bit of Joe Rogan because, and I think it's like 5 minutes long, but y'all, it is very, very important. Okay. And it's so much bigger than just allowing use of propaganda on Americans. It's allowed for infiltrate and co-opt the universities. What? Our schools where they're teaching our people? The unions, the media, the politicians, and bing, 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 the judges. It allowed foreign policy establishment. Let me get here. They can fund groups that effectively work with prosecutors domestically or that work at media dual use. Okay, so now they can work with prosecutors. Wow. What about all not just Delphi, yeah, but like what's going on in some of these other cases, right? We're talking about prosecutors. Is it on just what kind of level are we talking about? Okay, to give them foreign grants, because you think of USAID that's been in the news, that all was foreign aid, right? But yet these countries that we gave the foreign aid to, they're like, we didn't get that much money. Like, we said we sent so many millions or billions, and they're like, yeah, we didn't get that. Where is it going? Where is it going? But we can get foreign grants to do media propaganda abroad, but they operate here. Or social media censorship to coerce foreign countries to pass foreign censorship laws that explicitly and are intended to attack U.S. social media companies and peer-to-peer speech. Okay, so in 1948, Congress realized that all these dirty tricks and cloak and dagger stuff, this is bad. They realized this is a monster, right? That's why they said we can't do it to us. But all of these things now and for the past decade was repealed by Obama. All right. So when you're saying, well, we can't, we don't do propaganda on ourselves. Hey, honey, it's 100% legal. 100%. Smith-Mundt Act. made it legal for the MSM, the government, whatever, to tell you anything they want you to believe, and it is not illegal. They can tell you anything. They can say this, and you can start naming. I could start naming them off, but I can't say it here. Let's just all the things that they are allowed to do. Okay, so let's listen to a little bit of this Joe Rogan show. Do you have anything to say before we start, Colt?
No, I was just reading some of these comments. There's coming in hot.
Okay, let me stop then and look at some of this. read some out that you are interested in. I'll find it and highlight it.
The mafia wanted the Kennedys gone. JFK appointed RFK as the Attorney General, and RFK immediately goes after the mob.
True. Yes, and we're talking about not the RFK now, but Robert Kennedy, his brother, who also ran for president and who was also unalived by Sirhan, which is a whole other can of worms.
Wait, is
that
the
was
Kennedy
an
now
MK Ultra
related?
thing. What?
Is the Kennedy now the
yes
health guy? He's related?
Yes.
Okay.
But the original Robert F. Kennedy was JFK's brother. Yeah, and that was the Sirhan. If you go through files, and again, I'm a nerd, I do this. That was a big MK Ultra thing. Actually, Sirhan never remembered doing that. He remembered being bombarded, we'll just say, with substances, and then he doesn't remember anything else, he says. I honestly don't have any reason to disbelieve that, because I mean, come on, we're not dumb. We're not dumb. All right. Yeah, and RFK was going after the mob. That's true. And all of a sudden, he is unalived as well. Waco and Ruby Ridge. Yeah, things that I didn't, back in the day, I was much younger and I didn't know. I didn't know what I know now about those two things. Absolutely.
I'm so clueless. I've never heard of them. But there's so many conspiracies I got to catch up on.
Well, see, I used to think that a lot of it was conspiracy, or it was just wacko people making up stuff. And then you start digging into it, and you're like, oh crap. Yeah. Artist says a lot of people believe that Joe Kennedy made a deal with the mafia to use the Teamsters to get Kennedy elected. It was unheard of. Joe Kennedy was JFK's dad. That's correct, isn't it? Joe Kennedy was the daddy. And yeah, the Kennedys had a lot of money. Okay, they had a lot of money. They had a lot of friends. They had a lot of influence. But at the time, yes, it was unheard of for a Democratic Catholic to be president, which JFK was. And so a lot of people believe that Daddy Kennedy made a deal with the mafia to use the Teamsters Union to get Kennedy elected. I mean, it could be true. I mean, people do all kind of stuff. Yeah, I agree, artists. We should never have been involved in Vietnam. That was none of our business. None of our business. But it made money, didn't it? Cha-ching. Okay, so let me go back now and let me play this. And this is, let's see, who is this? Because I forgot. Mike Benz. Mike Benz talks with Joe Rogan about this whole thing that was repealed. Okay? And this is important, y'all, because, again, just what we talked about, what they can do to us legally now, or to anybody.
Are you familiar with the Smith-Mont Act? Is that the 2011, 2012 thing where Obama allowed people to use propaganda against United States citizens?
Yeah, that was what was done then under Obama was the effective repeal of it. It was called the Smith Modernization Act, but the modernization got rid of the whole purpose of it, the firewall, because at the time the media and media control was seen as the linchpin crux of winning the Cold War, piping in pro-U.S. Media influence to so that because everything moved after World War II from kinetic warfare and military occupation. We used to militarily occupy the Philippines, for example, after we won the Spanish-American War, but that was banned under international law. Territorial acquisition by military force in 1948. So we had to win elections, and we had to influence the passage of laws in foreign countries by having an apparatus inside those countries that influenced the hearts and minds of people, which influenced who they voted for, which then determined the government. So you had to move towards political vassalage rather than military occupation. And what the Smith-Mundt Act did is, simultaneous with the creation of this in 1948, Congress recognized the Frankensteinian monster they were creating by authorizing a covert, permanent Department of Dirty Tricks, and this is their phrase, not mine, to do this cloak and dagger, to infiltrate and co-opt the universities, the unions, the media, the politicians, the judges, the whole swarm army. What I have been calling for a long time the USAID Truman Show, because it's, these people in these foreign countries have no idea, how many of the things they interact with that are effectively a movie set being constructed by the U.S. State Department and its sister influence orgs. But the point that I'm getting at here is the Smith-Mundt Act in 1948 said, okay, you guys can do this. State Department can do this. CIA can do this. USAID, when it came along 13 years later, could do this. But
okay,
there was a guy named Frank Wisner who was known as one of the godfathers.
The USAID, USAID. I didn't realize the first time I heard this that he specifically mentioned them. That's part of what they are allowed to do. Now, looking at our missing money and all of this stuff and all of the Democrats and some Republicans, look, all the people who are out here protesting, calling Trump every name in the book and Doge and the whole thing, like, does it make sense? Because USAID had the power and authority to use propaganda on our own citizens. Like, you can literally control the media to say anything, to believe anything that you want them to believe. Y'all, if you don't find that horrifying, I don't know what to tell you, because I do. Anyway, I just realized that he just said that. Okay, so
father figures of the CIA. He's known for creating.
Okay.
You don't have to look at it right now, but it was something I found in December when all these drones were going on, and people were talking about how it was related to the Smith-Mundt Act and this other FAA Reauthorization Act of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
You can check it out later.
But I mean, I'm guessing that what you're saying is the gist of that is that they could, it could be government drones. Is that the point? It could be government drones. Using...
it's super short. I'll read it to you real quick. Drone mystery solved. The FAA Reauthorization Act of 2018 expires on December 20th of this past year, 2024. So the federal government is using a terrorism psyop against you to manipulate Congress into passing the new H.R. 8610, the Counter UAS Authority, Security, Safety, and Reauthorization Act of 2024, which will include appropriations and enhance government powers to control you. And they're even going as far as to push for acts of war against other countries. And then it goes on to talk about how the Smith-Mundt Act was repealed, which prohibited the government from broadcasting propaganda.
Wow, and that's as late as December. Let me stop and say hi to Ninja Warrior. How you doing? Hope you're doing good. Hope health-wise you're good. I think about you a lot. Just want you to know. Glad you're here. So glad you're here. All right, let me finish. We've only got about 2.5 minutes or so.
what was called the Wisner's Wurlitzer, which was it's like a church organ, and that he would brag that he could play the international media like a symphony to make any media narrative go viral in any country on earth because of the suite of CIA proprietary media functions and its distribution network, especially when the U.S. had first mover advantage in radio and print. It's basically the U.S. and U.K. were the only games in town really in having robust radio, film, TV.
Okay. Did you catch what he said? That he can make any media anywhere in the world. Uh, Basically, do whatever he wanted. Play people like a fiddle. Now, do you understand? Now, I know y'all in the chat, I already know y'all. Y'all think outside the box and you don't buy into this. I know that you don't. So I'm not talking to you specifically because, but I am talking about to people who may be watching on the replay or just curiosity seekers. Um, yeah. Do you see how the MSM has played you like a fiddle?
Well, I'm curious how exactly that plays out. Like us broadcasting propaganda in other countries, we aren't using their news networks, are we? Or how do we?
Well, first of all, the USA is very influential worldwide. But just like the document I showed you that was declassified, the CIA gets involved and it makes it look like it's local people and it's their own idea and it's their own stuff. Just like they did in Cuba with the voice of the people task. Yeah, let's make it look like these are local groups of people saying this, doing this, and it becomes part of the mainstream media. Also, I mean, I can't say it on here, but you think about the events of the past 5 years and how people were manipulated to believe things. I got to be really, really careful because Colin, I don't know if you know, I'm under a I'm under a warning from YouTube. Don't talk about this, okay?
Okay.
I have a 90-day sanction, okay? Um, but yeah, basically, there are things that have happened in the last few years that the mainstream media has, and I hope it all comes out. There's so much of it coming out now that it's insane, and I will talk about that on Rumble. But you just think about what they've told us in the last few years and said, it is propaganda. It is propaganda. But anyway, yeah, 100%. Samantha, our children are being taught false history and propaganda right in the schools. 100%. 100%. It's insane. I'm just catching up with Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, I know that's true. I have a sister
Okay.
that's 10 years younger than me, and she's told me some of the stuff she's learned in school, and it's almost completely opposite to what I learned just 10 years prior at the same
Yeah.
school.
Insanity. And I'm not even sure that what we were taught. I mean, I know what I was taught and what my daughter was taught were different things. But, I'm like, well, some of it sounds like it could have been the truth. And back in my day, they weren't going to tell the truth at all. But I don't even know. Yeah, history is being retaught, rewritten, and it's insane. I can't imagine.
And
Um,
there's no
I,
telling how much of the history that we do know is inaccurate. The history in the
oh yeah,
books written by history is written by the victor most of the time.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And so we all think of, certain countries, including our own, as the hero. And maybe we were, but maybe we weren't. What was going on that we don't know? You have to have an open mind about this kind of stuff and listen to other people who were there or who know stuff that I don't know. But yeah, so that's him talking about this. Mike Benz saying like, look, this group already said they can make you believe anything in any country. They can control the narrative. anywhere in the world. Horrifying. But let's go on.
And print media. So the Smith said, okay, you can do that abroad. You can plant fake news stories in France. You can, have propaganda blare into Africa or Western Europe or Central Asia, but that can't come home. You can't psyop our own people with your propaganda organ abroad, because the whole point of authorizing this is that we get cheaper gas, we get import-export markets, we get a high standard of living, because if a foreign government doesn't want to give up its resources or allow a U.S. military base or allow joint partnerships or exports of goods or U.S. multinational corporations to operate there, then the American people suffer economically. So it was always designed to say, listen, you can do this dirty stuff abroad, but it can't come home. We have and even that protection, which lasted for 70 years, and we only lost it a decade ago. We're up against a much actually deeper, darker problem with this USAID scandal, and as people will see increasingly, the scandals that will break open at the Pentagon and the State Department, which is that we have a Smith-Mundt problem for funding and operations. It's not just propaganda. The Blob, our foreign policy establishment, can fund groups that effectively work with prosecutors domestically, or that work at media, dual use. We give them foreign grants to do media propaganda abroad, but they operate here. Or social media censorship, to coerce foreign countries to pass foreign censorship laws that explicitly and are intended to attack U.S. social media companies and in U.S. peer-to-peer speech. So we need that protection. If we're going to keep this function at all, we need a hard firewall and absolute grotesque penalties for any violation.
Interesting. So,
are there any mods that can block this girl?
Oh, I haven't even been looking. Who is it?
It's got to be a bot or something, but inappropriate.
I don't see it.
You don't see a message that says "I live" and gives their address. It says "I'm a short girl."
Oh yeah. I can do it. I have to get on my phone. Hold on. Or Samantha, if you're listening, you can block her. I don't know. I can't block, for whatever reason. I can't block when I'm live on here. Hold on, I gotta switch accounts.
Oh, she did it. She did it.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Samantha.
Yeah, we don't usually have that. People. Yeah. And I don't ever block people who just want to take a different stance or whatever, as long as they're respectful. But just know, to my mods, I have no problem with blocking people who are obnoxious, whatever. Not a worry. I have a good group, so I don't want to disturb that. All right, so let's go on. Now I've been properly horrified by that. Wait, this is sorry, that's not me. I didn't post that. Whoa. Did not post that at all. This is Delphi. I may have to go back to let me go back to something else. Here, let me put something else up for just a second while I'm looking up my own tabs. But yeah, how do y'all feel about that so far? And it's strange that it oh, I probably will show that.
I feel like for most people, like it's so frustrating, like so many different conflicting narratives out there, and it's hard to really know what's true unless you just spend all of your time, and so a lot of people just ignore politics in general because they're just So much
Well,
confusion.
this is where my time goes a lot. My time on X is usually immersed in, or and not just X, because I follow the links a lot of times, or I just look it up separately myself. Yeah, there's so much. I could spend 24/7 if I had the time and energy on different subjects that are mind blowing, things that are very disturbing. Um, it's okay, Samantha. Yeah, it's okay. No problem. Hey, who's your daddy? Uh, the propaganda effort is part of a Marxism tool. Yep. Yep.
$92 million.
Yeah, so I saved this because, we were talking about how USAID, you know, everybody's up at all the you have all these people like Maxine Waters and Chuck Schumer and all et cetera, et cetera, all getting up and saying what a devil Trump is and how dare you take this money and blah blah blah. These poor people over in these foreign countries can't get aid now when we just literally saw that US aid goes to propaganda. Okay? And you also have leaders from other countries saying, "Hey, we didn't get all that, but we got some money, but we didn't get these kind of numbers."
So
So
why
this
is
is
Doge not revealing that?
Doge is.
They are.
Well, that's the
And
thing.
they're saying
Doge is
we found all
saying,
this money, but that we've been sending to other countries, but I haven't heard anything about them mentioning that uh, other part of
um,
it.
I've seen on X a lot of, I don't know, he keeps texting me, but I've seen on X that other statements from other peoples in different countries saying, yeah, we did get money, but they're reading the Doge reports. They're hearing the Doge reports too, and they're like, yeah, we got this much money, but we didn't like we gave 18 million to whatever. And they're like, yeah, well, we got 3 million of that, buddy. I've seen a lot of those reports. But yeah, let me go back in here. So Ron DeSantis. Okay, anyway, here are some of the, and this looks very similar to stuff I've seen. Are the numbers 100%? I don't know, but you can look at Doge and see that if not exactly, uh, it is very close of the ridiculous amounts. And we're not talking about the small ones are hundreds of thousands of dollars, almost not even worth talking about. It's when it hits the millions and billions that I'm looking at. So this is they're saying Ukrainian officials released the kickback numbers they gave US politicians. If this is true, of course they want us to side with the Ukraine and do anything that we can for the Ukraine. A lot of look, there's so much with the Ukraine. It's a big old mess. But yeah, you have all these politicians voting to keep our nose in Ukraine and all this kind of stuff. Well, if you're getting this much money, millions of dollars back, look at all this. Of course you're going to side with that. And you're going to be terribly upset when Doge cuts off the money flow. So there you go. And how many of these millions went to propaganda? All right. That's a whole nother topic. We're on JFK. We already watched this. I think. Yeah, this is the interview with Bill Cooper. We saw that. Okay, now here's another part of the declassified JFK file. It tells the story of a man named Gary Underhill, which we talked about him just a little bit earlier. Lord. But yeah, here is his picture. Remember, he's the one that came in after the assassination and said, hey, this was the CIA, a small group of a clique within the CIA. And it goes on to talk about it gives his credentials and stuff like that. But there you go. There is his picture. Now let's go on. Another part of the documents Um, this and I read this before I read it on X. I was up at like dark 30 this morning reading some of these files because I was thinking, how do you pronounce this? I'm gonna take a stab at this name right here, and I'm gonna say that Sergey Chornono, Chornano, Chornana, Chornono, Chorno, Chornana, Chornano. I don't know. We're gonna call him Chornano. How about that? That sounds good. Anyway, this guy Sergey wanted to let people know this is 3 months prior to the assassination. Um, Now, he writes a letter. Again, this is in the file. And he said he gave me, talking about Wasilev consul of embassy in the USSR, uh, gave him this information about Lee Harvey Oswald on August 14th, 1963. Now, this is just the assassination was on November 22nd. Okay, and it's basically a girlfriend of this consul came to his room and told him that Lee Harvey Oswald is an assassin and he will unalive President Kennedy. The next day, he says, I told to Mr. Blacksher, American vice consul, so now we got the Americans involved. He's telling them that Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald is an unaliver. He has a weapon or has ordered one. Mr. Blacksher said it seems like he will unalive someone. I said that Mr. Lee H. Oswald is preparing to unalive the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy. So Mr. Blacksher said, where will it happen? And I said, the right wing will invite President, criticize him in the newspaper, and then unalive him. Mr. Blacksher told me he will give the telegram to the Department of State, where he gave me the address where to report. Okay, so this is where he says at 9 a.m. on August 19th, he went to see Mr. Kippingen, Director of Special Counselor Service Department, and this is at 1901 Pennsylvania Avenue. Okay, that's just a few blocks away from 1600. Sachi, please. She wants to be part of this conversation. But yeah, in where it says it's highlighted, Mr. Lee H. Oswald will be unalived. All right, so this is back in August. They knew. They already knew. So if you already know that there is a plot, who's going to do it? You got the right man. How he's going to do, then you're going to have somebody ride around in a car without a top, without a bubble, in an open convertible car. Come on. So they already knew what the plan was. Now, let me go back to, let me not miss anything. Yeah, I agree with you, V. It's both sides of politics are the same coin. Yeah, I do too. I think so too. I don't trust either side, to be honest with you. All right. Any thoughts, Colton?
No, I agree with that, and I had no idea what MK Ultra is. So
What?
yeah, like
you
I'm
don't
not
know what MK Ultra
I don't know a
is?
lot of conspiracies. Yeah,
Oh,
heard of
MK
it.
Ultra. MK Ultra was. Let me just give you a short couple of sentences. It was a conspiracy for years and years until it was declassified, and then it changed from so many different names, but basically it was a form of mind control, a government project to create mind control people to do whatever they wanted to say. Like, it goes really deep. Now, I have had a bunch of times on here a guest, Carol Stanhope, who is also a friend of mine now, but she was a victim of MK Ultra and Project Bluebird, and the doctor that did her stuff, like she has wires implanted in her head, did a whole show where she shaved her head and showed what is actually back there. It's horrifying.
Well, you said she was a victim of MK Ultra and what? What was the other one?
Project Bluebird. And yeah, and look up Dr. Wait a second, Dr. Why can't I think of his name? It came up, Milla something, Dr. Milla. Anyway, there's a conversation that I was having with Brain. He actually cited one of this doctor's studies in something that we were talking about, maybe on humanics, I don't know. I was like, hey, I have a friend who was actually a patient of that doctor. But anyway, MK Ultra has been declassified. Do that anymore? No, you don't. You do it exactly like that, because Dr. Mulgren, I think is what it is. Mulgren. Anyway, Milgram, Dr. Milgram. Sorry. But yeah, they're like, we don't do that anymore. No, you don't do it like that because come on, you think they're going to change these tactics? No. But that's basically MK Ultra in a very short nutshell. Okay. And the thing of it is that people could carry out any kind of thing, assassinations, I mean, whatever. They are literally programmed with words, like they have trigger words. And when somebody says these trigger words, they just go on like automatic pilot. Like they're like kind of spaced out. They do whatever they were programmed to do. Now, yeah, go back and watch some of my shows with Carol. It's crazy. Okay, so this was MK Ultra was used in the assassinations of JFK and RFK, and it's blatantly obvious. Lee Harvey Oswald had top security clearance at a CIA base known for experimenting with psychedelics on human soldiers. That is absolutely a thing as well. You can find that. It's been declassified and was strategically set up to be the fall guy. Now, this is, and they're talking about Jack Ruby. All right. Now, he's the one who unalives Oswald before Oswald can act crazy and say anything. Because as far as the American people were told, Oswald's just this guy that didn't like Kennedy. Not that he has worked with the CIA, not that he's been to Russia, not that, nothing. He's just this guy. He's the guy that didn't like Kennedy and unalived him. So, see, this talks about the same thing. All right. Let me go back up here and read this because I'm not sure on this. This is where Tucker Carlson and some of these other guys are talking about it. I don't know if I'll get a strike on that or not. But yeah, human soldiers was the point of MK Ultra. So Jack Ruby gets involved, and then he's visited by another CIA MK Ultra therapist named Louis Jolyon West, who claims that Ruby is insane. But Ruby goes through one trial, then he goes to a second trial, but, he passes away. So we don't know anything. Robert Kennedy, this is JFK's brother, Robert, vowed to find out what happened, and then he was assassinated by Sirhan, like I was saying earlier. Sirhan says that, this is interesting. This is what Sirhan says. A woman gave him a coffee and led him to a dark place where he was lying on a table and likely, I can't say that word, as a MK Ultra assassin, but he was given substances. To this day, he doesn't remember a single thing. So I'll let you listen to a little bit. Let's see how long this is. A little bit of this.
In April 1964, a psychiatrist called Louis Joylin West visited Jack Ruby in his isolation cell in a Dallas jail. According to West's written assessment, he found that Jack Ruby was, quote, technically insane and in need of immediate psychiatric hospitalization. Those are conclusions that, puzzlingly, no one who had spoken to Jack Ruby previously had reached. Ruby had seemed perfectly sane to the people who knew him. Louis Joylin West pronounced him crazy. But what West did not say was that he was working for the CIA at the time. Louis Joylin West was a contract psychiatrist for the spy agency. He was also an expert on mind control and a prominent player in the now infamous MK-Ultra program, in which the CIA gave powerful psychiatric drugs to Americans without their knowledge. So of all the psychiatrists in the world, what in the world was this guy doing in Jack Ruby's prison cell?
Who exactly was Lee Harvey Oswald? And why did our government lend a hand to this man? Oswald was discharged from the Marines and defected to the Soviet Union at the height of the Cold War. He walked into the American embassy in Moscow, renounced his citizenship, and declared, quote, "My allegiance is to the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics." Oswald confidently told the Soviets he had information of special interest and spent the next 3 years in the USSR. The Soviets were interested in the information Oswald had. Before defecting, Lee Harvey Oswald served as a Marine Corps radar operator in Japan, a role that gave him crypto clearance, higher than top secret, to one of the 2 bases where the CIA ran their U-2 spy planes out of. The very planes used to conduct aerial surveillance over Russian territory. 6 months after Oswald defected to Moscow, a U-2 spy plane was shot down by the Soviet Union. The first time in the Cold War era. The pilot, Francis Gary Powers, raised the question of whether it had something to do with Oswald, the self-declared traitor. But the U.S. government didn't treat Oswald like a man who just committed treason. 3 years later, after betraying his country, Oswald decided to come home. And instead of handcuffs, the U.S. Embassy...
Yeah, let me just stop here. Isn't that odd? So the U.S. is aware that Oswald might have been involved in the shooting down of that plane, but yet he comes to the U.S., he's allowed to have a gun. He's just... Really? Really? Come on. This is, this is where you get into... That doesn't happen, especially when you are on the government's radar.
He gave Oswald a loan and a passport. And when his passenger ship landed in New Jersey, Oswald, along with his new Russian wife, were welcomed by travel agents with ties to American intelligence. The theory was that Oswald may have been a part of a Navy intelligence program where American officers pretending to be disenchanted with capitalism were dispatched to the Soviet Union. They'd be recruited by the Soviets and then fed back into the United States, acting as what the communists thought were double agents. This would explain why Oswald wasn't arrested for defecting. Instead, he was immediately contacted by George de Mohrenschildt, known as the Baron, who was working as an intelligence asset for the CIA. The Baron admitted later that the CIA officer told him to contact Lee Harvey Oswald. And what's the first thing he does when he makes contact? The Baron moves him like a pawn to Dallas.
I was there, but I don't remember the exact moment. I don't remember pulling my gun out of my body or wherever it was located, and I don't remember aiming it at any human being. I don't remember any of that, Mr. President. And I've said that from the get-go.
Yeah,
it's not that I'm trying to evade.
No, I understand. Let me just ask you a question. When did you start remembering things? After the shooting? What was the first thought that you had after the shooting?
Everything was always hazy in my head about that. And Attorney Teeter, who passed away, was trying to get a specialist, Dr. Herbert Spiegel in New York, to hypnotize me and to reverse me and to do all that.
But when did you start remembering things clearly after the shooting?
I really don't remember things clearly about it.
Okay.
In April of
So, I mean, you can clearly see there that Sirhan, I mean, does it sound like things that victims of MK Ultra have said? Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Uh let's see. Let me go back to what y'all are saying. Project Paperclip. Yeah, that's one of the other ones. You can look up Project Paperclip, and there's Project. I can't think. I know it when I hear it. Anyway, there's so many that derived from that, Colton.
What is Watergate? Which one is that?
What is Watergate?
Yeah, are you familiar with that one?
Yes, I just did a show on that on Rumble, or a video on that on Rumble, and basically it's where the political parties were spying on each other, and then it became this big, boring ordeal where President Nixon he was impeached because he was spying on the Democratic headquarters at the Watergate Hotel, which is something like is anybody shocked? Even back then, was anybody really shocked that people do this kind of stuff?
I'm shocked that he
But
was impeached.
well, yes, and Gerald Ford took his place. But if you go on Rumble, the last video I did was on Watergate. And what has come out since then has absolutely nothing to do with spying for political reasons. But it was a very boring ordeal that made headlines like we're talking about for months and months and months. And they even put it, just like the OJ trial was on all day. Well, all the networks, and you only had like 3 of them back then, they played Watergate all day long. Like you had to watch it, and it was mind numbing, from what I understand. Hey, Lowlight, how are you doing? Yeah, let's see. Yeah, there is some. Okay, thank you. That's his whole name. That is the guy, of course, that the doctor that was from the CIA that said Jack Ruby was insane. I've heard this a lot, Samantha, that Charles Manson was a MK Ultra victim. Definitely could have been. He was on parole the entire time. He was selecting, brainwashing, etc., and instructing his family of followers. I've heard that. There's a lot of.
Is he the guy who removed one of his own ribs or a couple of his ribs?
No.
Okay.
No, that wasn't Manson. But yeah, it's funny to me, Colton, that there's a lot of stuff in that was so far before your time. JFK was before my time, but you know what I'm saying.
Years, actually, maybe millions of years before my time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's funny that you're here, and I'm glad you're here to say this to people who don't know, because I kind of just assumed that everybody knows about Watergate and JFK and all this stuff, which I've always been a history nerd. So, what? Oh, wait! Hold the phone. Are you serious? Dr. West was also working at the health clinic where Charles Manson and family/followers went for STD medicine, health checks, etc. Oh, no way. No way. I have never heard that. Well, that would definitely suggest that because just like Carol has said, um, she's been followed her entire life after her being a patient of Dr. Milgram's uh and MK Ultra and Bluebird and all that kind of stuff. She's followed to this day. And when we talk on the phone, we call each other every once in a while, check up, how you doing? Like she's always telling me about things that to this day are still she's still being and so wow. Yeah, that makes 100% sense then. I mean, I know people had given different reasons, but it's kinda like if Dr. West was working there and was he still CIA? Was he, out of it? But it would add up because they're always gonna keep track of you, so if he was the doctor at the clinic where, Manson and his followers, they were into free love and a lot of stuff that you can contract diseases from,
Was he
okay?
was he a serial killer? Who, Charles Manson?
He actually never did one unaliving himself. No, it was his followers that were brainwashed. He never actually did anything but tell them to do it.
Yeah.
Strange,
Apparently, I
strange.
was thinking of Marilyn Manson, not Charles Manson.
No, Marilyn Manson isn't that a music? Didn't he?
Yeah, I
No.
just heard he removed his own ribs for
Oh,
wild
about the
reasons.
rib. Oh, I don't know. But no, but that makes sense. I had no idea. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
That is insane. Samantha says, Silky, think all the substances and they were eating from dumpsters, all the minor girls and hanging with celebrities. Yeah, kind of the same thing that we see going on even in today's headline. I just didn't know that. I didn't know that connection between Dr. West and Charles Manson. That's wow. All right. Let's see. I think that might be. I've got so much good stuff in here. I can't share any of that. So let me go back to here's my topics. If you're interested in stuff that I will be sharing on Rumble, there you go. There's a list. All right. Let me go back to where I can see y'all. All right. So yeah, there's all these pages. I've read a good number of them. Not anywhere. I haven't even scratched the surface, but what I have read is very interesting. And like I said, when you start looking at all of these other things that are in these files, you can see where it is a big fat bunch of people. So, do I think, from what I've read, do I think it was uh, one country or one group of people? No, I think it was exactly like you said about Trump, Colton. So many people were against stuff that, even if you just take alone the Federal Reserve and you say, okay, the feds were panicking because JFK wanted to do away with the Federal Reserve, that would be enough to have him unalived. Then you go into all this other stuff and you read all these files and you see what was going on here and there and how many people were involved. You know, um, it's crazy. Like I said, there's crazy side stories to this.
I'm curious
So,
why they didn't blame Castro and his regime if they were. Well, I know JFK didn't want to be involved with them, but didn't the rest of his administration, like his brother, and
well, I mean, I
so
guess that's just,
why didn't they just blame the Cubans?
I mean, yeah, since they wanted to get all involved, you would think, but I mean, I think there were a lot of suspects, but honestly, maybe the reason I'm just guessing here. Maybe the reason is because the CIA was so entrenched in in Cuba's business at that time that maybe they were afraid there would be leaks. You know, people, if they wanted to blame Cuba, Cuba could retaliate by what they knew. Plus, at that time, Cuba and Russia both being communist countries, and it was the Cold War. Um, I'm thinking it could have been an international disaster. You know, we're already on trigger point with Russia or the Soviet Union, and then you have all this. If it came out, then they could implicate Russia. You're looking at World War III, something nobody really wanted. I think it was easier for them to say it was a lone gunman. It was Oswald. He's a nut job. He had nothing to do with the CIA or anything like that. He's just, a nut job, and he took out Kennedy. By the way, in these documents, there is a report that I was reading. I don't know what page it's on. I need to start making the number in my notes, but they were talking about. I think it was the Soviet Union. uh, they were saying how it was impossible for Oswald to have done this because he was a poor shot, and it was an impossible situation to hit that target from the book repository. So the Russians at that point, they said, you know what, we're going to test this theory out. And they made a model, like they built a whole, I guess, a set, so to speak, and they got their sharpshooters, like the best of the best sharpshooters. They made this, replica of the way things were going, and even Russia's own. I'm sorry, dog's barking. Hold on. Uh, Let me mute this for a second. Sorry, I didn't want to yell in the microphone. But they could not replicate that shot. Even no matter how many times they tried, they finally came to the Russian officials and said, no, it cannot be done the way that they said this was done. Now, this is in documents somewhere that I was reading. So there you go. Let me see what y'all are saying. Yeah. Artist says they didn't have to blame the Cubans because they knew they were being backed by Russia. Yes. And we wanted to go to war with Russia. Yeah, good point. We didn't want nuclear war. Yes, Hoosier. Yeah, the CIA did. Yes, artist. Hoover went after communist hardcore, the Red Scare. I remember my grandparents and maybe even my parents talking about, if you go back to times, old fashioned houses and stuff back that were built during that area, like the 40s and 50s. A lot of them have what they use as storm shelters now, but they were actually like bunkers. Everybody had bunkers. That was the thing. Here in the South, we worry about tornadoes. We build storm shelters. They were building bunkers to try to survive a nuclear attack because uh, it was trigger like it, with Russia. Oh my gosh, the Soviet Union. I keep saying Russia, but it was the Soviet Union. Yeah, insanity back in those days. So yeah, I can see where that would trigger World War III. No, no doubt. Yes, you're right. Hoosier, Kennedy did not want a war. Yeah, so that's what we know so far. Now, I always, like I said, I always remember my parents talking about when I was little, talking about, like things that we as adults talk about now. I remember where I was on 9/11. It's that day is imprinted in your brain, and I'm like 100%. Like I know that, but the Kennedy affair was the same for them. They were like, okay, I remember what happened, how I felt, where I was, what I was doing, whether they were in school or whether they were adults, everybody always, I remember what that day. Well, my dad, so, when I was a kid and I would hear my parents talk about that, my dad always said, I think Lyndon Johnson had a lot to do with that. And I mean, of course, I didn't even know who that was when the first time I heard it. And then I realized there were a lot of reasons. I was even talking to Grok this morning, asking why would Lyndon, like, what would be the motivating factors, why Lyndon Johnson would do this. And there is a lot to suggest that, Lyndon Johnson definitely benefited not only by becoming the next president. There were a lot of things that he benefited from the Kennedy affair. And was he in league with the CIA? I mean, you look at these documents, and CIA is everywhere. CIA intelligence is all over the place. Like, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that the CIA took out JFK. Um, there's not as many direct documents that I would have liked to have seen that they dropped so far, unless there's another drop that's going to come. But I'll tell you what. When you look at the whole thing that was going on around this time, you're like, yeah, there's no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, I
So
believe that too. Samantha brought up an interesting question. She said, anybody else think Trump was talking to Putin about this document drop? It was reported that Trump had a phone call with Putin 2 nights ago. He stated they didn't talk about Zelensky. Could they have been talking about the big document drop?
I would think so. I would think so because, um, Trump is trying to keep cordial, relations. I don't think, like, I don't think Trump is going to. I mean, I could be wrong. Like, I've been wrong about a lot of stuff, but I don't think that he's going to, like, just take Putin's side and everything. I don't think, like, they're BFFs, but I think it's prudent to keep decent relations with Russia. And I think he probably did want to let him know, hey, Russia, the USSR is going to come up in these documents a lot. So, heads up, this is what your people have said. People who were Russian officials. There's so, like I said, I've read so much about different Russian officials and what the CIA says they were doing at the time. And like, some of it's like, ooh, that's a burn. That's a burn right there. There could be multiple movies made about the lives of these other characters that is very interesting. So yeah, I think that absolutely. Um, Johnson Ninja Warrior says Johnson absolutely had something to do with it. Listening to the interview that apparently I saved, I didn't record it. I just bookmarked it. It's disappeared. Based on that telephone call, I was like, "Holy Moses!" Yeah, I agree. Very likely. Oh, thank you, Ninja.
W Ninja.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do. But you take care of yourself first, okay? Don't worry about me. Um, a lot of the JFK documents were never digitized. I heard something about 80,000 pages. I know that there's a lot more, okay? I think what we have now is like 80 something thousand pages. And like I said, I may have read like maybe 300 of them. Some of them are, I'm like, I don't even know what this has to do with anything. Some of them are seemingly, and this is what bothers me, they're seemingly unrelated. So why is this document in, was it just declassified? Because I'm looking at it and I'm like, so like, really? But apparently it has a reason. All right. Yeah, nuclear drills in school. Uh so what are your oh my gosh, we've been going for a while. I'm gonna let y'all I'm gonna end this. What's your final thoughts, Colton?
I am. Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious there's some kind of conspiracy going on. I would really like to know about that video where it looks like the some word that starts with a Z, but yeah, the video where it has the driver turning around shooting Kennedy, and what
Um
who was the driver, and then what happened with that? I mean, that's
his name was Mike. Oh my gosh, I should know
what's he
this. I
not
wish
brought up at all, especially with
he
all the
okay, the videos, and I've seen like a ton of them over the last month. Just look it up on X, you'll find it. It to me, it's still kind of hard to see, but you can definitely tell in the video that the driver of the car turns around. You can
and
see him
sticks out
moving
his
his
hand.
hand.
Yeah, sticks out his hand before, like seconds before he shot. And what
Yes. And the weapon was supposedly a
was it? A
did
handgun
they
or was
say
it a
gas
rifle?
powered? It was a particular type of weapon that would not discharge. It was weird. It's not like something you've ever seen. It was a pew pew, but it was also, I want to tell you, it was gas powered, something like that, and it let out no smoke. So the people watching would never see the smoke come from the end of the weapon. Um, and so, yeah, there's a whole oh my gosh, we can get into a whole lot of other stuff. I'd have to find some other videos. But yeah, when you look at that, he absolutely what's also crazy is he had they had Secret Service running along the sides of the car. Now that car was going fairly slow, and these agents were running alongside the car, one on JFK's side and one on Jackie's side, and then you can see just not very far before the event took place that they were told to stand down. So that all of a sudden you see them, this one guy turns around and he's like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, get away from basically get away from the car." Because they knew what was going to happen. Now, supposedly, from a lot of stuff that I've heard, okay, I haven't seen it in the files, that driver was CIA also. Um, again, is CIA written all over this? Yes, everywhere from every possible direction for our relations with the Soviet Union, Cuba, the whole 9 yards. And then you have this Israel factor, the Mossad factor that they bring in. I'm like, yeah, it, I think it was, or maybe we decided to do it ourselves before somebody else did. I don't know. I really don't.
It's one of those things where I'm convinced now that it definitely was a planned attack by the CIA or somebody. Well, somebody. It wasn't just Lee Oswald by himself, but
No.
I really just have more questions than answers now. Who, you know,
Yeah. Uh Samantha, the Webster Commission investigate. Are you talking about Warren Commission investigation into JFK as highly reminiscent of the Delphi proceedings? Yeah, yeah. Oh, and let me just tell you this about the Warren Commission. See, when JFK, after his death and Johnson became president, he didn't want any. He established the Warren Commission. Basically, this is the narrative that he was saying, this is the narrative I want you to go by. He did not want any independent investigators. He didn't want anybody else involved in this. That's why it was hush hush. So everything that the Warren Commission did, they said what they wanted, what Johnson wanted. them to say. Basically, what the powers that be wanted them to say is what they said. Independents were and you can look up how many people did articles, and that's something interesting also in these classified files, because I didn't read the actual article. I don't know what they were saying, but these papers reference over and over different articles, like in Time magazine and on Life and the different big magazines of the time. And they would name the name of the article and the author of the article, and they would be talking about how they wanted to suppress that article or to dis what is the discredit. These are in these files. Okay, we want to discredit this article by this guy on this date in this magazine because it went against the narrative of what the Warren Commission said or brought up questions they didn't want to answer. Now, I have seen a lot of those. I also saw one where this guy, and I cannot remember his name, he dumps a lot of his files to a media outlet in Denver, Colorado, and he is immediately targeted by the CIA, the FBI, somebody like, hey. And so, you know what? He says, I didn't even write the article, it was credited to him. But after they found out that he had given papers and secret documents to the Denver outlet, Denver wrote an article and credited this guy that gave them the stuff, but he basically just got out of there. He's like, he found out they were on to him and he left. He said, I didn't read the article. He said, I really didn't have anything to do with it. All I did was dump the documents. And he was terrified for his life. And that is in those files as well. So I found that very interesting. Like I said, there are so many so many rabbit holes. You start and you start reading them and you're like, holy smokes, this is a whole other movie in itself. Very interesting. A lot of it's dull. A lot of it is like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then some of it is like, really? Huh. What do you know about that? And I just started. So there you go. Yeah.
And you
Yeah,
got a
that's
lot of
interesting.
smart chatters in here that know a lot about a lot.
I want to tell you, I have my regular people that come in chat. When I tell you they are the best group, they are the smartest group, and it doesn't matter about what we're talking about. Like, they know. They know. They're amazing. Alan Delos was head of the Warren Commission, who Kennedy fired months before. Interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you, Who's Your Daddy. Yeah, many tentacles. Absolutely. All right. So we're going to see. I'm still collecting stuff. I'll let you know when I'm going to go on Rumble. I don't know if I'll do a video or go live. I don't know. Does anybody watch lives on Rumble? I'm not opposed to doing one. I've got, as you saw, my topics in my folder, my bookmarks folder that I showed you on X. Got some really, really interesting things to talk about elsewhere. So just tell me if you're interested. If not, I'll probably do videos. It's fun to do. You don't really have a lot of people watching on Rumble, but it is fun to do a live. And if you want to join me, Colton, we can go through all this stuff together on some of these other things
There's a couple other topics in there that I actually do know a lot about. That were part of my time, like COVID, for example.
Yeah,
but
we can't talk about that at all.
Not on COVID or not on Rumble either.
Oh, yeah, on Rumble we can. Yeah,
I'm not even allowed
just don't
to
say the word.
Okay.
Just don't say the word here. That is what I got in trouble for. Yes. Hello, Hiawatha. Good to see you. And now Dulles has an airport named for him. Yeah.
Hiawatha's been here for a while. He think he said something earlier. He didn't been talking a lot.
Who?
Hiawatha. They've been here for a while.
Oh, really? I didn't see you, Hiawatha. Sorry. I would have definitely highlighted something. Yes. I think I'm gonna end with this point right here, Samantha. The really sad part is the lives ended so soon and the taxpayers paid for every single one. We were lied to and we were blinded. And uh now because of the repeal of the Smith-Mundt Act, they can do whatever they want and tell us whatever they want, as they have been doing for a while. And I think they were doing that, a lot of it. I mean, I absolutely know, without a doubt. Even before that was officially repealed, were they doing it? Absolutely. But now they have free reign. So this is why I don't watch mainstream media. I only get some facts. Or and I'm not even gonna say facts. I get some stories. It's like, oh, hey, this is happening over here. Okay, let me look into this independently because I don't believe, a word that you're saying. I know you're lying because your lips are moving and words are coming out. So let me find the truth. And I hope you all always at least do your own research. All right. I'm gonna let y'all go. It's gonna be warm today, and I want to get outside a little bit. And again, I will be on here talking Delphi tomorrow evening. Watch out for the time. It's gonna be about 6 o'clock or 7, somewhere around there, with low light recovery. And we're gonna be talking about. I'm gonna be talking about my opinions on the video that came out and what I think is right and wrong. And I haven't even had a decent conversation with Lowlight to know what he thinks.
Is it
So we'll bring it
is
on
it
to
the
you.
one something about Prof and a couple other people? Somebody had asked what you thought about their video, so that's why I didn't know. If it was. That's been a little while. I was trying to find it. I don't know where that was at.
I haven't. When I tell you I haven't had time to watch people, I'm not kidding. And I purposely didn't watch other people's take on the video other than criminality. And that was like it's the last 30 minutes of when she was streaming last week. When I first found out it came out, because I just wanted to. I didn't want to have anything in my head except to give you what I see and hear and the feeling I get from it and the problems that I have with it. But and some other things I have a problem with. And so I don't know. I don't know. I do know because I reposted it that Prof said he got a strike. A when you use somebody else's stuff because of a thing called gray media. I saw that. I may have reposted that he got a copyright strike on that. So I'm going to have to do that video. And so many people have used it. So I don't understand what the deal is, but I'll probably just use pictures from it. Okay. But I'm going to tell you what I see. And then Lowlight can tell you what he thinks. And I don't know if they'll be the same thing or not. I have no idea.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. Oh, watch Prof's live from last night. Oh. Okay. I will. I haven't talked to Prof in a while. I haven't talked to anybody in a while, y'all. Sometimes I feel like I live under a rock. I can't keep to myself a lot. But yeah. Yeah, I love Prof. He has a lot of good things. By the way, y'all, if you're not on Rumble, Crime Night, aka Joe Lewis, has been. I saw that got a thing because I'm subscribed to him, but haven't listened to it. He's been talking Delphi on Rumble, so I don't even know. But if you wondered where Joe went, he is there. So check him out for sure. Love Joe Lewis. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna say goodbye for right now. I will be back. I don't know, maybe tomorrow morning. I don't know. Depends on what's going on. Definitely tomorrow night, and we'll talk some more stuff either here or on Rumble. So like, I'll put it out on a community post if I'm going to go live on Rumble, so you can join me if you want to. Thank you so much, Colton, for coming
Thank you for
and
having me.
giving your
We
your
had an awesome
opinion.
chat. I had a great time.
Yeah, chat is great. All right, I will see you soon. Y'all be careful out there. Be safe. Whatever you do, stay silky. Bye bye.